So whether you're running a half marathon, building up to marathons, or even further, this call is about helping you to think laterally about what your process involves from now to the finish line of that goal. And with us, we've got James Turner, who will tell us more about his journey through from 3K to 100K shortly. But what I wanted to do is make sure that each of you get the most out of this. Whatever your goal is at the moment as you build up your endurance and your training, I want you to think about what you're doing at the moment in terms of your process and how we can make the most of that. So with that in mind, we kickstart today's. Just make sure that you have clicked accept on the recording, and throughout today that you have your microphone turned off. If you have any questions at all, please comment in the chat box underneath and we'll look to make the most of those towards the end of today's call. So welcome, first of all, and today's topic, all about the marathon process, is, like I said a moment ago, just to help you think laterally about what you're currently doing. Is it enough for you to achieve your goal? And we wanted to give you a chance to jump on this call with our Personify Marathon group that we do weekly on different topics. And already we've had our first marathoner achieve an amazing time, 27-minute PB, running 3 hours and 3 minutes yesterday at the Seville Marathon. So well done to Andy, absolutely incredible work. And we celebrate those with our Hall of Fame. So all the PBs get recorded there. So today's call is with James Turner. Now, James has this week, just like many of you guys, just like the list behind me here, is consistently progressing. And he is an athlete that ranges in distances, actually from 800, but more focuses on 3,000 meters for like the Southern Athletics League, right through to 100 kilometers. And just this week, he has achieved his first England vest at that 100K distance. So he's training just weeks out, I believe 6 weeks, James, away from your goal. Is that correct?
That's it. Five weeks yesterday. Yeah.
5 weeks. Amazing. So tell us more about you, James. Where did you start? Where did you get to? What's your running journey?
So I ran a little bit as a kid and stuff. And was reasonably fit, and then joined the army as a teenager, but then was quite into like powerlifting and lifting weights. And then I became a physical training instructor in the army. And then in 2012, I broke my wrist playing rugby in the army. And then at that kind of time, we're in our squadron, and our like, RSM came in and said, "Oh, who wants to do the Berlin Marathon?" And I was like, "Oh, a weekend in Berlin, like on the beers, that sounds like quite a good thing to do." And that was about 6 weeks away. So I kind of thought, oh, I'd give Berlin Marathon a go. I hadn't really trained for it, but I was just reasonably fit from just being in the army and being like a physical training instructor. So I didn't really have a time in mind, and then did the marathon with no specific marathon training, and then had like the best weekend. I ran 3 hours 15 off like my military like fitness, and then just had like the best kind of weekend with like really nice people, and everyone was very friendly. Like you must, when you go to a big race and stuff, everyone's just friendly, and then whatever time you run, everyone just very says well done to you. And I just hadn't really kind of experienced that before, so I just finally kind of thought, oh, this is kind of, I think I finally found what I've been looking for. This might be like the sport for me.
So James, with that, did you sort of fell in love with that running community, that feel?
It was that big city, yeah, the big city. It was Berlin, so obviously it was like a big city marathon, and it was just everything about it. Like going to the marathon expo was exciting. Finishing the race and then getting your medal, seeing everyone else like so happy, going on like I forgot what it's called, like the tube in Berlin, the Autobahn, wherever it's called, and then everyone's wearing their medal, and it was just like, oh, marathons are cool, like this is good. I want to do this. So I thought, right, I'm gonna get faster. So I picked another marathon a few months later, and then started doing some more runs to see like what I could run. And then I picked Hamburg Marathon And then that was about 5 months later, and I did a few more long runs on the Sunday, and that was actually Kipchoge's first ever marathon debut. So I did that, and then I ran 3:05. So then I had a 10-minute PB. So I was just like, oh, this is amazing, because you know what it's like in running. If you then see progress, you kind of get addicted to that progress. And then I was obviously getting closer to that 3 hour kind of mark. So when I ran 3:05, I was kind of like, oh, imagine if I could run sub 3 hours. Like at the time, it was just like incredible. So I was just getting posted to Oman to work at like this RAF camp. I was like one of the only army guys there, so I knew it would be quite a good posting. So I kind of thought, oh, what happens if I just commit to running properly while I'm in Oman, in the desert for 6 months? So that's what I did. So I just ran every day. So I just thought I'd run 60 miles a week with no sessions. I don't know really where I got 60 miles from. So I just ran 60 miles every week, for the time I was there. And then I just found a marathon when I like came home. And then the only marathon I could find that was really fast was Pisa Marathon. So I thought that'd be another like good weekend away. So I did Pisa Marathon, and then I ran 2:46, and then I was like, oh, I was like buzzing, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. And then like what it's like at marathons and stuff, you get chatting to people, and then I was speaking to this bloke that was at the same hotel as me, that was a lot faster. He was running like 2:30s, and he was like, oh, you're only a minute off getting championship qualifier for London. And I didn't even know this was a thing. And I thought, oh, what? I could run London Marathon, because you know what it's like growing up in the UK. London Marathon on TV is such a big thing. I never for once thought I could do it, because I always thought you had to do it for charity or whatever. So then I had this thing, oh, I'm going to go sub 2:45, and then I get my championship place. So then I went back and did some more training, and then I found a marathon about 6 months later, and that was Manchester, with the goal of going sub 2:45. And then I ran 2:44, and then I got my championship London place. And then kind of things lead on from that. So once I got that time, I was then in back home in Brighton, and then I met up with the AB training group by accident. I was doing a park run the same time that they were doing it, and then I kind of found my coach Alison and the group that Shorty trains with, and then
James,
Alison.
before that,
Yeah.
so to get this right, you've managed to obviously be quite a fit guy, and you've come in, you've had the opportunity to run obviously a weekend away in Berlin, and you've set the standard, that first marathon, and then you've got quicker and quicker on your own accord without a coach.
Yeah.
And your main focus there was just running more, not necessarily sessions, but just running more mileage. 60 miles you started off with, you went down to that 2:46 and faster, as you sort of really committed to what you felt was the process. Is that right?
Yeah, I kind of thought sessions weren't. Yeah, well, in Oman it was very hot, so I didn't think sessions were probably the best idea, because it was the desert. So I just did easy runs, and I actually, as a runner, find sessions quite difficult. I like to naturally I can run loads of miles, but if I to run sessions, I prefer doing it in a group. So at that time I was training on my own, so I think running miles is just easier. So I probably I probably just settled into what kind of suited me. And then when I've then found the group, the AB training group, and then it was like the group sessions, similar to like you guys. And then when you're training with people, you kind of do the sessions. The sessions are easier, aren't they? Because if you've got like 8 times a K and you've got to do that on your own, it's quite daunting. But if you've got people to meet up with to do it together, that makes life a lot easier. So it's probably the biggest contrast was going from training on my own. So I trained on my own up to that point, and then having then a group to train with. So that was the biggest difference, really. So then I'm training with Alison and training the AB group. I kind of gradually got my time down again, and then I ran 2:32 at London that year. So from that was from her training, and then it was sub 2:30, so 2:28, and then all the way till this year when I ran 2:19. So, and that was about 5 marathons. So I ran 2:23, 2:22 at Seville last year, and then at Valencia this year I ran 2:19. So I
Wow,
ran
that's
I ran
incredible, James. So that
3:15.
time, I think we can all agree, is phenomenal. And I know speaking to you just after that, you were buzzing, absolutely buzzing. You couldn't believe it because of the humble guy you are, like how fast you had got. And that's that journey from 3:14 all the way to 2:19. It's a massive progression, and it's great to actually lock you down for this call for us to tap into that progression, because it doesn't matter if you're starting at 5, 6, 7, 8 hours for the marathon. There's the goal for each of us is a progression. Maybe you
Yeah.
haven't even ran a marathon yet and you're looking to start on that journey that James has gone on. But James, that's amazing. That's an incredible 2:19. Are you done with the marathon now?
No, I would like to get faster. I have got yeah, like a random dream to like run an hour faster than my first marathon, but I'll see how that goes. But I think that the biggest thing from that journey is if I told myself when I first started running, say that 3:15, and I gave myself a target of running 2:19, that's almost too much of a bigger goal. Your brain can't really cope with it. You need those little ones. Then that's what the process is. So then I gave myself 3:05, then breaking free, and it's just breaking down. And I do that now with my training and my racing. So I've got a big race for England, and if you think about the bigger picture too much, it can feel quite overwhelming, I think. But if you then really break it up into manageable chunks, it's just a lot easier to cope with, I find.
And we use that term, don't we? Process, not outcome. And it's something that we really reiterate into the mindset of Personify as well as the AB guys. And that's more about focusing on what you're doing right now, and then the outcome becomes automatic. Is that right?
That's true. And then another what I think is really important is process, not outcome, but also enjoy the process. Because if you don't enjoy the process, you just won't get it done. So like putting into place so you enjoy the training. So like I do like I run with my dog, and then like all day today I ran like before work on my own, and then tonight I was like up on the downs with my dog, and then all day at work I was looking forward to that, like going out after work like on the downs in the mud and stuff at night with a head torch. Like I enjoy that. So it's finding stuff that you enjoy. I don't enjoy like running on the seafront or whatever. Like so find what training you do, either if it's like running on the treadmill in a gym or whatever. I think that's very important.
Awesome. So we've got a few questions that you lovely lot have shared with us from Personify for James. So we're going to just touch on a few of those now. So talking of that process, not outcome, I guess, how does your mindset change when you're training for a marathon versus some of the shorter races? For example, last year you ran your 10K PB and your marathon PB, but how does that mindset change when training for those races?
So kind of when I train for like a bigger race like the marathon or like the 100K now, I kind of go all in with that match. So the goal is that marathon, and then normally the shorter distance are part of the build up to that big race. So that my like 10K or half marathon will be those stepping stones to the final big thing that's the marathon. So the mindset is always I kind of go into those races a lot quite relaxed because they're almost like B races. So I think it's quite important to kind of rank um, what races are important to you out throughout the year. So you've got an A target and a B target and a C target. And I don't think you can have many A targets in the year because like mentally it's just too much because you get like obviously an A target you get kind of nervous before and it's kind of such a big thing. So I always have about 2 A targets a year. So this year it will be like the Valencia marathon that I just did, and then it'll be this 100K, and then I'll have some B races, like a 10K, and it's kind of like, if it doesn't go well, there's always other 10Ks. But it's slightly different with the marathon because there's not always, you can't do as many. So I think it's good to focus on those as A goals. And then I have C ones because I love doing like local races that really almost like charity, almost not like charity runs, but like there's a really good race here that some of you might have done, like the called like the mince pie 10. So they're like my C races goal, and they're just like solely just to have fun. So that's why my mindset is different. I have like A goal, B goal, and C goal.
I love that. I love that, James. And also to add to that, because I know a few of you have had a similar aspect, not many, but a few of you have mentioned like A races, B races, C races. The C races, I guess you can learn from, right? You can learn more from, you can practice maybe a different mindset
That's
challenge
it.
and so on. And the B race is a little bit more about securing it. The A races, you have to go with the proven test, the proven process that you've got locked in and move forwards with. Is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So with that one, do you change your nutrition in terms of sort of pre long run meals or recovery when training specifically for the marathon and ultra distances?
Yeah, I think fueling is a massive part of it. So for like my first few marathons, and even my first ultra, I didn't fuel properly on the runs. And what I found now, so I did a 37-mile run yesterday morning in 4 hours, and I
Subtle.
took
That's
well, I
amazing.
took I took full, like I took about 80, I took like I think 70 to 80 grams of carbs per hour during that training run. And I just wasn't as tired. I'm not as tired today. I'm not as tired in that evening. I think if you fuel properly for your training runs, you not only like build that robust stomach, because you have to take on gels, obviously, and nutrition in the marathon, and you've got to practice for it. So by fueling properly for your training runs, you're not only training your stomach to take on all the carbs, but you're also boosting that recovery. And then so that's during the runs. And then if you know you've got a big run coming up, so if you know you've got a big long run on the Sunday, it's fueling properly, like even 2 days, a day before. And that took me a few years to kind of work out. And then sometimes I'll be like waking up in the morning for my long run, like not really raring to go because I hadn't really prioritized my sleep the night before. I hadn't really prioritized eating like rice or pasta the night before. So it's really just putting in those kind of things into place so you're fueled up, and then ready to go, really.
Awesome, James. Thank you. So what about strength? So in terms of the strength training, when you're marathon training, how do you change your strength routine or does it stay the same?
It changes slightly. So at the moment I'm running like such big miles. So like last week I ran I think 134 miles in the week. So I those don't have as much energy to do like huge like gym sessions. But in the other times of the year, if I'm just running, say, 80 miles a week, 90 miles a week, I'll find more time to do like a big like powerlifting session. So when I'm in my marathon training or my ultra training I am now, I'm in a slightly different mindset. So I'm in more of like a mobility, flexibility, recovery kind of mindset. So today, after my run this evening, I did like 20 minutes of yoga. So I've got like a yoga app. So I do that. So it's all about boosting the recovery. So during the marathon, I slightly changed to mobility. So you still doing a bit of strength, like I still do like pull-ups and like deep squats, but my real like need for those sessions is to recover better from the miles and then not feel so tired. So it's all about opening the hips, all that, although like the deep squats, all these kind of things, just to make yourself cope with the miles better.
Makes sense. Awesome. So it's flipping into that mobility aspect as you increase the miles, but just keeping it regular. You do that daily, right? Rather than just
Every day, yeah. Well, I do it like kind of all day. So like, even if I'm like cleaning my teeth, I've got like the step, but I'll do like some like calf like raises. Like I just constantly, like if I'm on work and I'm sat like I've got like a stand-up desk, so I like do some like just moving around, just constantly. I just think if you're sat down too much, and even just like walking at lunch, it's just like having it's just taking me a long time to kind of realize. And then sometimes like after a long run, I would have been sat on the sofa all day, but actually going out and taking the dog for a walk and then doing some like little bit of mobility does get the blood going and does help you recover. And then the other big thing, like the biggest tip I can give, it's not for everyone, but I've tried a lot of things, and it's like sort of sauna. Like so I'm really big onto sauna, and I think that's really helped me like recover well over the last few years. It, like gets the blood going and gets rid of like toxins. It's obviously quite a luxury; not everyone can find it, but if you're ever at a hotel, whatever, there's a sauna, I would recommend it.
I love that, James. So with that, the goal is just to get more oxygen flowing around your body, guys. So
Yeah.
whether it's dynamic stretching and the Personify mobility that we have on your Airtable plans, or the Personify mobility live session that everyone has access to if they want to come along for a Friday just to get that in, just contact me for those. But the main thing here, whether it's the sauna just to increase your heart rate, to get blood flowing around your body too, or it's the light movements, if you can make it a bit fun by adding it into your toothbrushing routine like James, or throwing it in when the kettle's boiling, or you're have a bit of a giggle, what did I do today, whilst waiting in the supermarket train or a train line or something like this for a ticket. It's a great way just to add that in. If you feel you don't have time to do mobility, obviously James's story of progression is incredible, and there's no accident that he's done that. So that's really interesting. So a couple more fun questions, I guess, James. So how do you decide what race to enter? Like why choose a certain race?
Oh, I asked my fiance what we can afford, and then uh, um, I think it depends. It's really what motivates me. So like sometimes I feel really inspired to do like a trail race. So like I've gone up to Scotland before and done like the West Highland Way, or I've done like I've done the South Down Way 100K. So it's kind of like if you're going to be setting a goal and then you're going to be training say for 12 weeks, and then you're going to be waking up early every morning to get your training in, like late evenings, like big sacrifices, I think it has to be a big goal that will really excite you. So if it's like Andy that went to Seville, and then like Seville is a beautiful city, and if that's what will motivate you at the end, I think that's what you should go for. So that's what I do. So at the moment, yeah, so that's what I've always done, is pick stuff that I feel will motivate me and excite me. And then sometimes, yeah, because we went to Valencia, we went with friends and we stayed in an Airbnb and we had like a lovely trip. So it's making it like fun for the whole family. So it's like it's just nice. So I just think, yeah, finding something that will motivate you and make you look forward to it, really.
Brilliant. So I guess leading on from that, what's your favorite and least favorite marathon, and why?
I Whoever was London, but I love I've done Seville and Valencia, like my last two, and I've really enjoyed going to like a European city and like and I actually think I preferred Seville. I think I was a bit ill, but I really had a great time. No, I think I'd have to say Valencia. Valencia, I don't know if anyone's been there before, but it is like a running city. Like it's kind of really geared up for running, and the weather is perfect because it was December. So I think my favorite marathon was Valencia. And was it my worst race or worst marathon?
In worst, yeah, race. Let's keep it that, go from there.
Um,
What would you never go back to?
Never go back to. I think I did like a run through event as like a marathon pace tempo, and it was like around a race course, or like a race track in this random place, and I just found it online, and it was just really boring and uninspiring, and I hated it really. and I wouldn't go
Makes
back. And
sense. That's a good
I
reason why
can't
not
even
to do it.
remember
We've got a few
where it
questions coming
was.
through
Yeah.
here, so I'm just going to add a few more that we've got on that. Back onto the mindset side of things with here. How do you prepare mentally before the start of a race? So that sort of 20 minutes before the start of a race, how do you get in the zone? And how do you get past a tough patch? We call it turbulence in Personify Marathon during a race.
So for the first bit, I think it's completely routine. So it's like if you just settle into your routine that you've always done, that's you get comfort from that, and you've done it so many times. You're like, if I do this, it will be okay. So my routine is I do like a 3 mile warm up, and then I'd come back and do some like drills, and then I'll take like a caffeine gel 15-20 minutes before. So that 20 minutes before, I've already done everything that I've always done. So I'm taking comfort from everything you've practiced, and then that helps me then with my mindset, and then it kind of takes over. So it's kind of getting a good routine. So if you're going away to a marathon, you've got a big marathon coming up, it's like in your notes in your phone is writing down your whole morning routine, even like the day before. So that's what I do. So I know exactly what time I'm waking up. So it's like 5:30 wake up, like coffee, breakfast. So I take comfort from having that full routine. And then like my fiance, she has to like cope with that, like being part of that plan. But she knows that if it is, then I'm calm. So I think, yeah, I take comfort from my routine really, and then I know my mindset will be fine.
I love it. I love it. So a bit more on the diet side of things. So I know that you tried different diets before, including being vegan and a variety of different aspects that you've tested out from like fasting, etc., and so forth. I'm sure. We're just sort of curious to know what do you do rather than just your day to day. Actually, in the marathon, what does your fueling look like from maybe the day before to the finish, or to just after the finish line, before the beer?
Yeah. So I do like a 2 or 3 day carb load, and then but I don't. I've learned to like not kind of overdo the carbs, because I think you can kind of you take on enough gels now during the day. So I think sometimes I've been like bloated like the next day because I've like crammed in the pasta. So I think it's kind of eating like a normal amount, just more carbs than you would. So it's kind of my like normal day before would be like porridge for breakfast and like a bagel mid morning, and then like some like risotto for lunch, and then like another bagel or rice pudding mid afternoon, and in the evening would be like some more rice or pasta, and then maybe some rice pudding or a bagel before I go to sleep. So and then I cut out greens as well, like 2 days before. So like all like fiber. I try and not have a really beige diet. So it's basically just carbs, just to limit if I get any like stomach upsets.
I'd love to
I
say,
find
without
that's
going too
helped.
much into that, more of a digestive thing for you, James.
Yeah, I think yeah, and that's definitely helped. And then the other thing I do is I normally like try and cut out caffeine like 24 hours before, and then when I have that my first coffee, because I'm quite a big coffee drinker, on then the morning of the race, then I feel yeah, very like alert. And then in on the race, like my marathon in Valencia, I took on 90. I think I took on 93 grams of carbs per hour. So I took on a 30 gram gel every 20 minutes. And my first 4 or 5 gels were caffeine gels, and then my last 3 were non-caffeine. Um, and that was only from working with this nutritionist, because I used to say, oh, I used to have my save my caffeine gels to the end, and he was like, well, all you're doing is you're kind of boosting your pre-race party like caffeine load for that. You need to, because it
The
takes
post
so
race,
long.
like
Yeah,
afterwards, just yeah, that's it.
because it takes like 40 minutes like to like kind of take effects. You're actually better front loading with caffeine.
And
So I
that's
took my
really
first
that's really
first five
interesting,
shots
James.
of
Sorry to
caffeine.
interrupt, but just when we were talking about that before, that's a game changer because caffeine is associated with making sort of the running easier, perceived exertion being lower. And I always think at the end of the run, I'm going to need a caffeine boost. But what you said there, it can take up to 40 minutes for a caffeine gel to actually settle in. So if you're having that in the last 5K of a marathon, it's almost wasted, right?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. I'm actually just in on the chat, I'm just putting in a case study, and then that basically on there, that's got everything I had at Valencia. So you can get all the numbers, you can see all the products I took, and then that like is quite, hopefully some people will find that useful.
Thank you, James. That's brilliant. So we'll put just the last few questions in. And guys, if you've got any specific questions that you feel would help you move forwards towards your finding your best marathon process, understanding how that can be personalized to you, please put them in the chat as we'll finish off with a Q&A from there. There's only a couple of questions in there. So we'll go with, have you ever DNF'd, James? If so, what was the reason behind it? And did you do anything to put it right with the process moving forwards?
No, I've never actually DNF'd from a race. I've
Didn't
been
mean to.
close. I've been close. I've done a mountain ultra up in Scotland, um, and I got very close to. I had to stop, and then I had like an emergency phone, and I phoned my girlfriend and stuff, and then I was like, I was done. I was complete. I had like nothing left, and I still had like 20 miles to go, and over like the hills, and I was at an aid station, um, but then I went into that race wanting to win it, and then like racing like the guys at the front, I was in the lead for the like a long way, and then the way I got to the end was I just changed my mindset. I was kind of like, I haven't won it, but I can still take great like pride in finishing it. So I think that shows that even when you know your plan doesn't go right and then you think it's kind of the end of the world, it's just changing your mindset, and then that will get you to the end. Because at the end of the day, it's only you that really cares. Like your family won't care if you finish ninth, eighth, or if you run 3:18 or if you run 3:22. They really won't. It's only you. So if you just kind of change that mindset in your head, you just get kind of give yourself a bit of a break.
So that's
Yeah.
focused on, again, staying in the moment and just making sure you can move through that patch, as it were, to move on to the next phase.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We've got some great questions coming through. If I'm just looking at the ones that have pre-entered us, you mentioned you do your warm up over three sort of miles typically. Does that change much if you were to do a 10K versus let's say, a marathon?
Yeah. So for like everything other than marathon, I normally do 3 miles other than the marathon. And then I think for the marathon, it's so difficult. Even for like Valencia, I was like quite starting up quite near the front. So I had a bit of a room that I could do a warm up, but I only managed like a 5 mile warm up. And I really don't think, unless you're running like 2 hour pace for the marathon, I don't think like warm up really matters. It almost helps you kind of ease into it. And you're running 26 miles, so you don't really want to be running 27 miles. So I think for a marathon, a warm up doesn't really matter. But I think what does matter is maybe like finding somewhere you can do like leg swings, or finding somewhere you can do like some like like a little bit of like hamstring stretching. But I think if you can't do a warm up, yeah, leg swings. I imagine Ben gets you doing them all the time. But I think doing some like leg swings, dynamic warm up is really good, because you can do that in one place. So I think like if you want, like speak to Ben and he'll be able to give you like 5 exercises to do. So even for like London Marathon, when you're like waiting at the top, there's a few things you can do that will really like open you up and then get you ready to run.
For sure, for sure. So the final question I'll put until we get onto the groups, I guess, is there's all different types of runners, and you run with completely different minded individuals within the AB group. For example, like a Tom Evans, who is very structured in his way of thinking from head to toe, to maybe someone like Dan, who from an ultra point of view would just be away with the fairies. And I've talked about it with the Personify Marathon guys, is understanding your own, I guess, angle. But What do you think about when you're running like 100K? What goes through your head? Are you quite logical in terms of head to toe form, or do you disappear and daydream, or both?
I think in the racing it's easier because it's very like it's competitive. So like when I won like the South Downs Way 100K, I like one I was like I was in a race, so it kind of goes quite quick because so you've got the competitive spirit. So I think like my competitive nature of the racing makes the racing go very quick. But obviously like the long training runs, that's when I think mindset actually kind of comes in more. And I imagine you guys are finding that. So like if you run London Marathon, you're not gonna like the race, you're gonna have all those people cheering you, but you haven't got that like 4 Sundays before when you're running down like I don't know like round Crawley or whatever. So I think it's the training that's very is quite difficult. So I think putting stuff in place to help that. So I had that big run yesterday. So I live in Peacehaven down next to Brighton. So I ran from Peacehaven to Woodendene over to Lewis, and then I met up with my friends that were in Lewis, and then I did like an 18-mile run with them round like Newark and stuff. So that really helped me to like break it up. Or I've got like podcasts or music. So I just think finding things that like help you. Like I love running. Get a dog. I love running with my dog, so that helps. So like just finding things that you enjoy, and then it makes it a lot easier.
I love that. So it's actually sort of breaking up a long run. Like for a lot of people have got some of their longest runs in the marathon build up towards like Brighton or Manchester or London coming up. And it's almost finding a way to break that down into maybe do part of the run and then meet up with a group of friends, maybe hire two different running groups to go off at different
Or
aspects or whatever it is.
running somewhere is quite good. I do that. We do that sometimes. I've got a long run to do. Like I did a 50K race and I recce'd the whole route. So that was 30 miles. So then I ran 30 miles somewhere and then met my like dog and fiance at a cafe. So I had to get there at a certain time because I was meeting them there. So I think
Nice.
if your kids or whatever, meet them and your husband or your wife or whatever at a cafe 2 hours away because you got to get there. So
I love it. That's quite a good way of adding process to your run. So we'll dive into your questions that you've shared with me directly, or on the public group. So first up, we've got a question here that says about sort of your progression. Do you recall anything, James, that specifically really made a difference at each stage of your progress? So that's running from your first marathon through to a 2:19. Is there any? Do you sort of recall specifically anything that really made the difference in the progress?
I think the first stage was kind of not kind of rushing it because I didn't do like I'd said before, I didn't do the session. So it was kind of just like setting realistic targets and didn't overly push it. And then getting a coach and getting so I think the fact you're all here now, like with Ben and stuff, that's something that took me quite a few years to find. So I think a big thing in that in my progress, it was getting a coach and getting a training group. So the fact
Makes
you're all
sense.
here is a big tick.
And the faster you get, the harder it gets, right? And you've gone from with a
Yeah.
coach from 2:46 down to 2:19, and that's obviously the biggest substantial group. Good. So some real key questions here. How do you work through any niggles or injuries that pop up, especially with the mileage that you're doing?
Um, I'm I'm quite lucky. Well, touch wood. I'm quite injury. I do a lot of more prevention. So I run a lot off road. So I think that really helps. So like up on the downs, like on the grass, I try and get up on off road as much as I can, and I find that massively helps with injury prevention. The other thing is my background was strength training, so I think strength's very important. So if you haven't done proper strength training before, I think that would be quite good to start putting in your routine because then you do get a big injury. Kind of, it does help with the injuries. And then when I do get an injury or a niggle, it's not ignoring it. it doesn't go away if you ignore it. It's kind of thing. I've got that. It's happened. So how can I sort it out? So that's either going to physio, getting a massage, or it might just be really simple, like a slight imbalance. So maybe it's in your glutes. So maybe just doing a little glute exercise that might take 2 minutes every day. We'll kind of get rid of it. But if you ignore it, it will just get worse and worse and worse. So that's what I do. As soon as I feel something that doesn't feel right, I just start doing. I start like just doing different exercises, and then yeah, I'm constantly kind of like going like this, going like this, and I thought, oh, that makes it feel better, and then I do it over and over again. At the moment, like I've got like a tight like left glute, so I do like the pitch, you know, like when you're like you got the sofa in front of you and you kneel down and then you put your leg onto the sofa like flat. So I'm just constantly doing that to kind of like get rid of it. So I think it's just staying on top of it. Yeah, and then
So,
not ignoring it. Yeah.
so plain simply, do your mobility, do your strength, and get onto the softer stuff when you can. So whether that's the Worth Way, the Downs Link, the South Downs, North Downs, guys, it's just making sure your easier runs, especially, are on those types of surfaces.
And running, and the big thing is running easy. I've never, I always run easy. I think a lot of people they don't run easy, and I've never really worried about what my like time is on Strava. Like this evening, my like average pace was like 7:55, and then I'm racing way like and my marathon pace is 5:18. 5:19, so that's a massive difference. So I just don't really care. If I'm tired, I just run slow. And I think that's a massive thing as well.
I love that, not being soaked in by the Strava followers, just going into what's needed to be done. I've definitely joined in with that as well. Other things, guys, in terms of making sure you get your routine massages in throughout the block. And we've got I think the last question to come up here, James. So thank you so much for those. And that's really about, and that's come in just about the amount of events you do, whether they're C, B, or A races. Given how many events you do, how do you get the sufficient recovery in between the build-ups for those A races?
So after Valencia, I took like completely 5 days off doing no running. So I think it's important to have downtime. And then so that's what I think that massively helps. And then building up slowly. So and then like the week after that week of doing no running, then I might do some more cycling. So I'll go on Zwift. So I might run 40 miles a week, and then I might do 40 miles on the bike. And then the next week I might do 60 miles. So it's kind of having you've done so much, and it's not really the race that takes it out of you, it's the build up and the training. So it's allowing yourself to rest afterwards. And when I first started running, I didn't do that. I kind of, because I just wanted to always get better and better. And I thought, oh, if I just come back really quick from that race, I'll get fitter and fitter. But you can't. You have to sometimes. I'm sure Ben's like showing you. You have to dip, and then it's fine to get unfit. So if you're doing a park run in 24 minutes, and that's like amazing to go sub 25, but then a few weeks later you've had a down week, it's fine to go to park run and run 27. It doesn't matter, because you're gonna get back up to that point. So it's not worrying if you're unfit, and then getting unfit in the right time, and then building back up.
Love it, absolutely. Fantastic. So from that point of view, James, we'll finish it off there, guys. Your questions have been brilliant. Thank you so much for adding those in. And James, thank you so much for the time to share those with us. So just to finish off, really, guys, how is your process going to change moving forwards? Are you going to have a look at the link that I share briefly on the groups regarding James's process from start line to finish line in the marathon build up? Think about testing out gels during your races. Are you going to actually add a bit of the mobility routines that are in your air tables, and then find out what works best for you, so that when you have maybe tight hips, you know exactly what the best things are for you? Ideally, guys, it's about making sure the right process hits the right buttons, because there's no accident in from James's point of view, being an incredible athlete across the board from all different distances. He's got his processes that work from the warm-ups to avoiding injuries to maintaining that mobility aspect as well. It's great across the board. So what I would say is have a little think today, maybe make some notes of some of the key parts that you feel is going to affect you, and yeah, add them in. I think that'd be really cool. So James, thank you so much for your time today. That was brilliant.
No,
And
thanks.
I hope you guys within Personify have got some value, at least from one of the key points there.